We had an employee that we let go earlier this week. He hasn't been here but maybe 5 weeks, but he's had 7 absences. And that's just a lot. So we had to let him go. And like the next day, his mom called in threatening to sue and all this stuff. I'm like, you know, we worked 4-day weeks and he was gone. So that's almost 2 weeks out of 5 weeks that he was just gone.
Unreal.
Like,
it's a good start.
Run a company, you know, with people that show up. You just ate it.
What is she going to sue you for? Welcome to the podcast, everyone. Let's just start out with getting sued. Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. We have Jason and Ashley Haynes. Been some of my good friends for a long time. I think, gosh, 6-7 years at this point, I think, maybe longer. I don't even know. Were you guys still, when we first met, were you guys still part of the, were you just getting out at that time?
I can't remember if we were part of that franchise when we met. I don't think we were.
Okay.
We had just gotten out of it.
Cool. So we have a lot to talk about. Ashley and I got to catch up on Friday on some stuff, but I haven't talked to Jason in a while. But these guys are out of Greenville, South Carolina. They run all outdoors landscaping, and they also have Turf Boss as well. I don't need to write any of this stuff down. I didn't have to look it up. I just know these guys well enough to know that this is what they do. So welcome to the podcast, guys, and thanks for being here, and thanks for spending an hour with me today.
Well, thank you for having us, man.
Of course, it's going to be a fun one for sure. So why don't you just kind of tell everyone like the backstory of how you got into the industry, how you guys started. We've had people in the past weeks that still are into franchise or franchisees, and they really like it. But I'd like to hear the other side from you guys, like why it's not so great. What's the downfalls of it? So we have a lot to talk about. So we'll try to cram as much as we can in an hour. So whoever wants to go first, they can go first.
Sure. You can share. I can share either one.
So Jason started the company in 2010. He was in construction prior to that. And as everyone knows, construction market started to kind of go south for residential home building. And he was like, what am I going to do? And I was like, well, why don't you start a landscape company? You did that for houses. He was like, okay, I'll give it a try. So basically that door-to-door knocking just went out and hustled it and grew it up. And then in 2014 that you joined the franchise?
Yeah, I think it was 14 or 15. I think it was 14. Yeah.
14. He joined the franchise. And he was looking for somebody to kind of help support him, help him grow. I think he thought it was far different than what it actually was. Those systems, those processes, everything that you needed. And in 2015, he went on a mission trip and he left me in charge. He said, hey, you're going to run the company. I'm leaving. And I was like, I don't think that's a good idea for me to run the company. I don't know what I'm doing. He's like, no, you got this. I'll send you like emails back. I'll let you know what you need to do. So he would call me. He's like, hey, they need to go to the sheriff's house. They need to go to the house with the big rocks. They need to go to the house with the Rottweiler. And I'm like, what kind of system is this? I was like, are we paid? How do you know how long they're spending there? Like, what's happening? And he's like, don't worry, we got it. And I was like, this isn't working for me. So I started changing everything while he was gone. So I was putting everything into service autopilot, which he was already a part of, just wasn't utilizing it. So I started putting everything in the system, routing everything out. They had to like clock in, clock out of each job, building out forms. So he came back in 2 weeks and we had tripled in revenue just from systems that I put in place. He's like, yeah, I'm not taking it back. It's not yours. And I was like, right. I was like, if it's mine, I was like, then we're going to run it how I want to run it. He's like, I'm fine with that. He's like, just do it. So I just started like diving deep. And as I dove into it, I realized that the franchise just wasn't working because I was learning and I was listening to YouTube videos and podcasts, whatever I could get my hands on to figure out best systems, processes, and things I should be doing. I just dove straight into it. And I said, we got to get out. I said, they're not helping me and I need someone that's going to help me or support me and let me do things the way I want to do it. So
she was what really made us want to get out. So we had to run. We were running our financials, and we knew of Jason Cupp. We knew, of course, Jonathan Toshnik at the time, and so we had talked with them several times. You know, we had been to SA conferences, and so we were using Jason Cupp's kind of thing for your getting down to your bottom line, you know, your net profit. And she ran all the numbers the way he wanted us to do it instead of the way we were doing it, the way we were taught. and we were actually running like a 0.4% profit margin. Like it was nothing. And, so she's like, we can't, we keep going another few months like this and we'll go bankrupt.
Yeah. So
that's
franchise,
kind of what started the whole thing on getting out. And, we negotiated and, paid to get out and started building it back.
So with the franchise, were they taking a percentage of profit or was it a percentage of gross?
But it was percentage of gross.
So
it was a fairly high percent. Right. So, they didn't really, care too much what your bottom line was.
So you joined the franchise so you get the systems and processes in place to help you scale. But then once you got into it, you realized that there really still wasn't any.
Yeah, there wasn't. They had some, but they didn't work the way that, like, our industry is a little different than a lot of industries. The franchise we were a part of was owned by a much larger corporation that owns 15 or 20 different franchise brands, and all those brands knocked out the park. They're really good, and they're service industry stuff too. But landscaping and lawn care it's a different monster. The margins aren't there to do what they wanted us to do and to pay the percentage that they wanted us to pay.
Yeah.
If you're running a 10% margin, depending on your size, 10% can be very bad or 10% can be very good if you're depending on how many millions you are. But if they're taking 9% off the top, it's leaving you with 1.
Yeah.
So it wasn't possible. It wasn't feasible.
So then I just kept running it from there and restructuring everything. In 2020, I said, this is our year to hit the ground running. So COVID hit. And I was like, I don't care. I was like, we're going to push straight through this. And we did. So we've consistently had growth. Last year was a 55% growth. We're on track to do 65% this year. And we're going to keep pushing.
Yeah, you guys have definitely made a ton of changes even over the last 2 years, 3 years. But yeah, you guys are constantly moving and shaking. And I remember we were talking on Friday, Ashley. You're saying that one trip that everyone went on changed your mindset from when you left.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. Like, what did you learn when you were there? Like, what finally made sense?
So we went to Lake Tahoe, January of last year. And right at that point, we were right over $1 million in revenue. And I was doing everything. So the office, 100% was me. I answered all the calls. I was pushing out estimates, follow-ups. I was doing any client concerns, emails, financials, everything related to the office I was doing. And we went, and Jason had been telling me for a year that he's like, you've got to hire someone to help you. You've got to hire someone to help you. And I just kept saying, no, I got this. I can do it all. I can do it all. I can keep doing it. When we went to Lake Tahoe, we had to do like a round table of items we love to do, hate to do, and items we like to do. And then we went around the room and kind of called each other out. Like, what's holding you back from the next step? What do you like to do? What do you hate to do? Who do you need to pass that off to? I haven't even want to pass off my hate list to, so I wouldn't hire anyone. And everyone kind of called me out, like, you are your own worst enemy. You're holding yourself up. You're your biggest roadblock, and you're never going to grow if you don't stop. They're like, you got to hire right now. So before I left the meeting, I'd put an ad out on Indeed. Before I left Lake Tahoe, I'd already set up 3 interviews for when I got back. And within 2 weeks, I hired somebody. And that changed my whole perspective from moving forward after that. She did fantastic. She was a game changer in our company. And I just really focused on hiring the right people in the right seats, reading more, listening more, and learning more faster.
So what do you think was holding yourself back? Like, I know you said it was personally, but why? What was in what were you thinking at that time that was like, why I can't hire this person, but why do you think that?
I thought I could save the money to like keep investing in the company. And it was just the wrong choice. Like, the people are your best assets to move forward. And it's not saving you any money at all, not to hire that right person. I think that's what the problem was for me.
Yeah. And I agree with you. You can find a good CSR for, let's just say, $16 to $25 an hour. And you actually should probably be working on the $500 to $1,000 an hour projects, right? So is it really saving you time, or money? Not at all. You lose them.
Yeah, I think of everything in dollar values now, like what my time is worth. Yep. Should I be doing this task? Is this something that I need to pass off, hire? Like everything that I do is thought in that manner now.
Yeah, and I think that as a growing business, in entrepreneurs, we kind of all get stuck there for a minute because we have that. Like, we talked about this, like the imposter syndrome. Like, oh man, like I'm not good enough. I can't do this, and you have those negative thoughts all the time. Then all of a sudden you have that one thing that makes you break through, and it's like game on.
Yeah, I've always struggled with that because I'm self-taught. And so we got in here and he's like, you need to run a P&L because he came from a business background with his dad. I'm like, what is a P&L? Like, I didn't know what we were supposed to be doing. And when he first started his business, I was like, man, if you make $100,000, we're going to be rich. And then I was like, you get there and you're like, that's not true. And then I got into Academy and I had to fill out a form. They're like, how much do you want to make? And I was like, if we can make $1 million, that would be just great. And I got there and I'm like, this sucks. I want to make $1 million. Like, so like you keep setting these goals and move forward. And so now like I'm at a goal of 50 million. I was like, so it's changed from 100,000 to 50 million. So like, as your mindset changes and you learn, it's just,
For sure. There's a lot to unpack just in there. So you talked about Service Autopilot, talked about Academy. You guys talked about Jason Cupp. You talked about Jonathan Potoshnik. How did you guys find Academy? How long you guys been in Academy? How long were you in it?
Well, that goes back to the very beginning in 2010 when I started, with Long. I literally started like January 1st, 2010 is like when I started going out door to door, knocking on doors.
Yeah.
I got somebody to answer the door and let me cut the grass. And we actually still maintain that house, by the way. It's my first one. We still maintain it.
It's cool.
But like probably about 2 weeks in, I was curious, like, all right, the business aspect of running a landscape business and all this kind of stuff. So I'm on YouTube and I run across this guy, Lawn Care Millionaire, and it's like answering questions. And I'm like, oh shit, this is pretty cool. And he was getting 200 views maybe at the time. He just started doing it. And I was like, this is awesome. He's like telling me how to bid big apartment complexes. And he's telling me how to manage, this and do that. And so that's when I learned of Jonathan Potoshnik. And then I found out that he had Service Autopilot. So I researched that, signed up for it. So, we probably joined in February of 2010, something like that, with Service Autopilot, which is shortly after they launched it, I think. And then, so when they came out with Academy is right at the same time I was looking at the franchise because I knew I needed some outside help, something to help me get organized. And it was between the two. Obviously, I picked the wrong one, got out of that one and immediately joined Academy. And Academy's, it's been great. And then I think we were in Academy for about 2 years before we joined the Elite. Mm-hmm. And Elite's that's a different ball game, man.
Yeah, he definitely produced some killers out of that group, though.
Yeah,
there's some aviators. Sure. There's out of the 20 people, let's say 20 of them that were in it are all in the top, 5% of the industry. So it's pretty amazing. Mm-hmm. So he definitely knows what he's doing.
I love that I can count all of y'all as my friends. I can call any point and say I've hit this roadblock, and you're like, this is what you need to do to get through it. Like having that network is key to moving faster.
Yeah, and not just having Jonathan there, but like you said, just having the group that has been through a lot of the same growing pains that may be a little bit further ahead or a little bit further behind. We all have a different perspective. So just having like that network group that you can just reach out to literally anyone you want to solve the problem in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Or getting stuck on it for 2 years, and that's why people they don't know what to do, so they just get stuck. We make one phone call like, oh crap, that was easy, and move on. So it's very, very important.
Yeah, I used it 2 days ago. I called Chad Curry.
Yeah.
Talked to him for a little while. So we get stuck on something, I've got a Rolodex of people I can call.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys do a bunch of different services, but you guys have, the landscape side's really big for you, Jason. He's a hell of a landscaper. I've seen some of his work. I think you just won an award, like a GIE, didn't you, like 2 years ago, or took second or something like that? You can talk about that.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, we did. So we are, and they haven't done one since 2019. But the regional hardscape competition, they canceled the one in 2020, of course, and then 21. They just haven't started it back up yet. But we did win first place at the Southeast Regionals. So I guess by default, we're still reigning champions since 2010 or 19. But
so what was that? What did that competition consist of? I vaguely remember, but I remember it was pretty cool.
Yeah. So those competitions, they're a lot of fun, man. They're 3-man teams. You have 2 guys that are building the patio, and then you've got one guy with the plans. One guy with the plans is not allowed to touch anything. Only the 2 guys, and he just kind of tells you what to do. But they give you a set of plans. It's an 8x10 patio with a seat wall. And you've got to lay your screed rails out, screed it, lay it, snap it, tamp it, build the wall and everything in 60 minutes. And then they grade you on it. So perfectly level, are all the joints tight? Is the wall plumb? I mean, they check every angle of that thing. And that was actually our first time going to that competition. No clue really kind of what to expect on it. I didn't even bring any tools. I didn't realize you had to bring your own tools. So I was borrowing tools from other guys.
How much did you practice before you went there?
Not really too much practice. I mean, we do a lot of patios, so it was. I thought maybe, but we never really practiced necessarily for that particular event.
Yeah, I'm sure you were practicing for like a year up to that every night, just doing a 10x10 wall or 10x10 patio at the wall. So, just lots of practice.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show, like, you're really, really good at your job. I know that Ashley said like 70% of your business is mostly hardscape now at this point.
Hardscape, landscape. We do a lot of synthetic turf. We're probably the largest synthetic turf installer in Greenville.
That's awesome.
I mean, we've done everything from, putting greens all the way to big rooftop hotels. So.
It's some really cool projects, I'm sure.
That one's really cool.
And then you guys are building up the maintenance side, and Ashley said you guys are trying to work on a project, maybe acquiring a company in the next year or so. Adding some more crews to the maintenance side. How's that all been going?
Good. We started with 3 teams last May. I think we had 3 teams. Mm-hmm. We moved to 4 by the end of the year, and then we're adding 2 additional this year as well. So we're adding team 5. We're fixing to put in place now, and team 6 in the next couple of months. So we'll have 6 teams without any acquisitions.
That's awesome. Ashley, what is your favorite part of the business? Is it the hardscape side? Is the maintenance side? And what is your roles kind of over those 2 things in the business?
I typically have nothing to do with the maintenance hardscape side. We have operations managers for both of those areas. I do business and vision, and that's my favorite, building people, building the business. And I found this even more true in the past 6 months. We did a stress test on the company in November, but we only did it for 4 days. And so we left. They could not contact us. We could not contact them to see where the holes are and what things didn't work or did work. And they did great. So our team did great. I actually relaxed. He was super nervous. He failed. He actually reached out or was like watching the chats online, like trying to like see what was happening. But he failed. I did great. Then we did it again in March. We went to Hawaii for 8 days. And so they couldn't contact us, same thing. And I did that. But what I found was the biggest hole, and my important role was being a visionary, because things kind of fell apart towards the end. And they were like, the business is falling apart. We're going to go under. Like, we can't afford it. Like, they were like worst casing scenario, everything. So I came back in, they were freaking out. And I'm like, calm down. We got this. This is what we're doing. This is where this is happening. This is where this plan works in. And they're like, well, that all makes sense. They're like, we were way overshooting everything. And they're like, we had, totally made this a whole different scenario. And so I reined it all back in. Everyone got back on track.
Awesome. How often do you talk about vision with your team?
Every week.
Cool.
So we have, we're EOS as well. Yep. Libby got me on that last year. Mm-hmm. So we're almost a year into EOS.
Did you guys hire an implementer or doing it yourself?
Self-implementing.
Yeah.
So we do our level 10s every week. We do our quarterlies, yearlies. We try to stay on track with all that.
That's cool. And Jason, so what's your role in the company? What do you do?
So my role is kind of anything that needs to get done, really. I mean, I help some crews on certain projects if it's a project that they are coming up on something that they've never done before, or they need guidance on something for one day. I'm not in the field all the time. Like yesterday, I was bouncing between a couple crews because they were finishing up jobs, just make sure everything's getting buttoned up. And, we have an operations manager that's over the landscape and hardscape division. So he's got the 3 crews that he is over. So he's scheduling, dispatching, ordering materials, making sure the guys got what they need and all that stuff. And I'm kind of just there as backup or for training. Cool. So it's definitely good to have James. James is the one that's our ops manager. He's awesome. He's doing a really good job.
That's awesome to hear. Ashley, you said you're the CEO. So what is Jason's title?
We're trying to figure out exactly.
He didn't say anything, so I was like, well, I don't know what he does exactly.
We're trying to figure out where he falls at, and we keep moving him on the accountability chart, trying to figure out exactly who he answers to.
Just kick him off of it. He doesn't even need to be on there.
We're like, what is he supposed to do? And but yeah, the guys just look for answers. He buys equipment. If something goes wrong at the facility, he helps with that. But he has a lot more freedom. And which is what he's looking for. He's like, I'd like to be just like an absentee owner. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not ready for that. I enjoy what I do.
Yeah. And Jason's put a lot of time in, lots of hard work, lots of labor hours he's put in, building patios and landscaping, lots of mowing. Like he's done it all. So I get being out of it is pretty nice at this point. And Ashley's just ramped up, getting into it, but job's a little bit different. One thing that I've honestly have always admired about you two is that you work together. Obviously you're married, but you guys have a really, really good relationship from the outside. I know it's not perfect like anyone, but you guys seem to always be getting along. You guys are always traveling together. You guys are driving fancy cars together, going on trips, driving on Lamborghinis or whatever you guys are doing at that time. But how do you guys manage that part of it? Like the balance of being married, working together every day?
I don't really know. It just kind of works. It's not something that we try to make work. It just works. Yeah. I don't know. We've been together, gosh, I don't know, 20.
You should know.
22 years, something like that now.
Yeah. I was 15. He was 16 when we got together. So we're high school sweethearts.
Wow.
And we've just been very natural. My mom says it's one of the most natural relationships she's ever seen. She's like, y'all just balance each other and complement each other so much. I'm typically more reserved. So Jason brings me out my shell and pushes me. And he's a little bit more wild. So I kind of rein him back in to say no a little. So and we kind of balance each other out. As far as keeping our relationship really well, I credit it to date nights every week. We've always found that's important. People tend to get in a relationship, they get married and they stop dating each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge mistake. So we go on a date night every week, just the two of us. And that's been awesome for us.
Yeah. And like I said, I can tell from the outside looking in and knowing you guys as long as I've known you. And like I said, I admire you guys for that. It's really, really cool to see. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
It doesn't go unnoticed is what I should say.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, I made her smile. Look at that.
Yeah.
Most of our date nights revolve around business.
That's anyways. Okay. But you guys.
It's one of those things, if you go to a party and you like to talk about business and everybody else is talking about going to the next party, you're kind of bored. And it was like to talk business. So it's just kind of what we do.
How hard is that for you guys outside of the business network to talk to other people that aren't the same?
It is very hard.
Yeah.
Which is probably why we don't really go out that much with other people.
Yeah. Even with family members, or it's just a struggle to hear all their problems that they talk about on their day-to-day life. I'm thinking, man, if I only had those problems, my life would be pretty good at this point. But they just, we don't understand each other. And I try to explain to all the people who don't get it, but they just don't get it.
No, yeah, because I tell them all the time, we'll go somewhere, we'll do something, and we'll meet up with these people. And I'm like, we are wasting our time right now. What are we doing? They just don't care to talk about business or growth or development or anything. And I'm like, what are they doing with their life?
Probably not much.
So.
So then where does Turf Boss come in? Like this has been what, 2020, 19,
yeah, that one's fairly new.
2021.
Was it 21? Yeah. So when we officially launched that one. So that one, all outdoors, we've always done maintenance, and we have different packages that we offer. And our platinum package comes with everything lawn care wise. So you get the shrubs, beds, mowing, leaf cleanup, all that stuff, plus fertilization and weed control.
Yeah.
So in the past years, we've always subbed it out. And we've subbed it to several different companies. And we always tried to get, companies that would communicate with us in a manner that we wanted to communicate with our clients. And so, we wanted to notify our clients, all right, they're going to be there tomorrow. Make sure your dogs are up, make sure the gates are unlocked, all this kind of stuff. And it also needed to, since they are our mowing clients, they needed to be on days that don't interfere with our mowing schedule. Yeah. And after probably 4 companies, we just couldn't make it work. It was almost impossible to do, which is very hard to do unless you control the company. So that's where we're like, why don't we just bring it in-house? Start another company, we'll sub it to ourselves. We can have that company communicate very easily with us because we're running out of the same office. So we know, when we're going to be there. Clients are a lot happier. We're a lot happier. So, that's kind of what started Turf Boss. And it's grown. It's not something we're pushing. Well, we are pushing it, but we're not pushing it as fast as we're pushing all outdoors.
Right.
It's grown up. We're maybe a little over 2 million square feet. So it's still fairly small.
Yeah,
but
it's only been 2 years. So, and I remember you guys called and we were talking about like, how we want to grow this thing super fast. Like, how do we do it? So what did you guys end up doing? Like, okay, you launched, you rebranded. I'm sure you did some upsells to your current customers, right? But then what did you do for marketing from there? Do you have a separate website? Is it the same website? Is it a landing page? Yeah.
Yeah, completely separate website, completely separate social medias. We just started Google Ads pushing this year. We did a little bit towards the end of last year, but we started pushing Google Ads this year, which has really helped accelerate it even faster.
Yeah. Do you guys manage the ads yourself, or do you have a marketing company these days?
I'm working with a marketing person. She's like independent contractor. So I kind of give her everything I want done and then she makes it happen. Cool. And she has a little bit more knowledge about how it all works and targeting specific audiences and things like that and getting our client list input and all that.
Yep.
But before this year, I was managing all of it. Did all of our SEO and Google AdWords. So she just took it over in January.
Awesome. So other than Google Ads, what were you guys doing to help grow that side? This is new, right? You're just trying to get your brand out there.
Brand new. The only other thing that we did was we linked with SendGym.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we would do 9 rounds.
Yeah.
So every time that we got a new client, we would start 9 rounds around that house's marketing to them to time those routes.
Yeah. How did that work out for you guys?
Only thing we did last year. And
how'd it go?
Great. Yeah, we still use it now.
Awesome.
So we're going to continue to push those 9 rounds to time up the routes. And we have some other maybe crazy ideas of partnering with some other companies, different things to try to get their business as well. So we've started picking up smaller lawn care companies that don't do fertilization, and they're subbing to us because we don't compete with their service.
Yep.
Because we have everything marketed separately.
Yeah, so separate service autopilot account. I remember you were kind of talking, like, do you guys run like the franchise model that they have, or like as far as service autopilot goes, or the branches model? I know you said you use different documents and different estimate templates.
We actually have it built out in the same one right now, and I just built double documents with different branding on it. So I just changed the document whenever I'm sending out.
Is that hard to remember, or is it pretty simple?
No, it's pretty simple. They're labeled, so it's pretty fast.
If we're gonna send out a mowing bid, it'll have all outdoors on it. But if we click on, we're gonna send out a warm turf estimate, it'll automatically be Turf Boss.
Right on. It's smart.
Already all.
I just squirrel brain, and I was like, oh, this new service autopilot account. And so
we'll separate them eventually, just as we grow, because we want to make Turf Boss multi locations. So we want to go to other states.
Yeah, we talked about that.
going to move all outdoors to other locations.
So when is and we talked about this too, but how many years out do you think you're going to switch locations to add a second one, third one? What state you going to next?
I said 5 years, and my team is actually pushing me harder. They're moving me faster, so they want to do it within the next 2.
Cool.
So I need to figure out some things to push faster to get to 2 years, because they're like, no, we're going. So they're ready to move to the next location.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what's your plan to go forward for more marketing to grow Turf Boss? And you work with some other companies, you can do some, your Google ads. What else are you going to do? It's hard to start over, right? You have tons of knowledge, that you learned the last 10 years that you're like, okay, I can take what I've learned the last 10 years, dump it all into this one thing and scale this thing super fast, which is fun, especially for us quick starts. It's so much fun. But implementing it is one thing.
I think partnering with new builds as well. It's going to be a huge selling point. So we're going to partner with new build homeowners, and so that we can get in there and get that service started as soon as they get into the home.
Yeah.
And so that they keep it as that turf is looking great. So I think that's going to accelerate us fast. And then, just Google ads. We've talked about door knocking, but it's just, we don't have it set up. I tried to actually get some door knockers that have knocked on my door and banned. They don't even come to my house anymore.
They come to our house now. We used to have AT&T salesmen and the guys that are selling the solar panels and stuff. And every single one that comes to the house, she always invites in. And she's like, "So, how does your commission work? How do you get paid? Would you be willing to come over?"
You guys got blacklisted from door to door, which is the worst.
So nobody comes to our house anymore.
But you guys will have some rookie that shows up that knocks on your door regardless.
Yeah, probably.
But Jason,
she went across the street. Because it was we live in a cul-de-sac, and they hit every house in the cul-de-sac but us. And you still across the street and talk to them.
Always be recruiting, right?
Yeah.
This is next level. Just chasing the door-to-door guys down the street.
Yes, I'm like, hey, wait a minute, stop.
You didn't come to my house.
But Jason, you said you've done door-to-door before.
Yeah.
Well, that's how I started out.
That's how most of us started out.
Oh yeah, I mean, I had a mower that I borrowed from my dad. I had a blower that I borrowed from her dad. I had this little 8-foot tilt back trailer in a truck I bought for $5, and I loaded it up. And I'd park in a neighborhood and just get out and start walking down the street, knocking on doors. "Hey, I'm Jason. You need your grass cut?" Blah blah blah. And I think I didn't get any my first day. I think I got 1 or 2 my second day. But it just
that's the hustle.
Kind of built that's I did door to door for the first couple of years.
Yeah, like I said, that's the hustle in us. I started out the same way. Started out knocking doors. My grandparents gave me an Aaron's lawnmower, and at that time it was the first time they ever had the front caster wheels that were you could zero turn. So it was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And then my aunt Barb, she gave me an Echo string trimmer from the 80s. That thing was so awesome though. It ran for the first 4 years. I wish I still had it actually. But that's just how we all started out. We all kind of have the same story, same background. That's why we get along so well, because we've been through the trials and tribulations, which aren't fun at times. But now, fast forward 10, 12 years, oh, that was so much fun. To go back there and do it again. Which you guys are doing with Turf Boss, so it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, we're excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, that's really cool. What is one of the biggest things in the past 2 years that you've learned that was aha, I get this? And we kind of talked a little bit about the trip you went on, but what about some really good hires, other than maybe the office, or that just really got the thing moving?
A key hire for us was sales. So a lot of companies have, or at least in our area, we'll have kind of operations guys that do sales. So they're selling, 1 day a week, 2 days a week, and then they're maintaining, keeping track of these crews and all this kind of stuff. We didn't want to do that. We just wanted one dedicated sales guy. And that, we've got a guy now, Chad, he's been instrumental in getting us where we are today. I think he hasn't even been here a year yet. I think he came last June, I think. So June would be 1 year. And I think last month he passed the $1 million mark in sales. So he will probably sell $1.4 to $1.5 million by himself. So I mean, getting a good salesperson that knows sales, is good talking to people. You know, he was from the industry, so he had, you know, some knowledge on doing stuff. He'd never really done synthetic turf. He had never done a lot of pavers and walls and things like that. Like, he'd been on the jobs before with them, but he had never, you know, been through the entire process of what it takes to do it start to finish.
Yeah,
so
great.
a little bit of training from there. But one thing that made him be so successful too is what Ash has been working on, and it made us successful, is the back end in-service autopilot. So when he goes to do an estimate, you know, he can, you know, everything's almost built out in the system somewhat. I mean, you know, certain things you have to look at accessibility and things to certain areas, but for the most part, it's built out in service autopilot, and he can put in all the materials we're using, and you can see, you know, your projected revenue or your projected gross margin and your net margin. And we have a target gross margin, and if it's below that, then he knows he needs to up the price a little bit to get it to that target margin.
Very smart.
So that's helped out a lot.
Does he do all the design for it too?
He does. Yeah. We sent him to university. Yeah, Emory University. He wanted to go through a design course there, so he went. We paid for him to go over there, and he took that course. It was like a semester long, I think.
Awesome.
Did that, and then, but we're big in education with all of our guys too, like all the way down to the guys that just started. You know, we have a huge list of classes. Some are free and some are paid. We do the paid ones once a quarter, and then the free ones are just free. You know, and they have link. We have on our website. All of our employees have logins also, and so they can go on there and sign up for these classes. We have links to all of the classes on our website for them. But it's anything from irrigation to lighting, drainage. You know, there's some of the bigger paid ones that are like ICPI certifications and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, turf grass management's a big one. I think that one's through Georgia.
NALP and Georgia both have different turf mass management courses and landscape management courses. I'm big on education. I feel like, because for my background, I was a teacher prior to being a stay-at-home mom and then joining the business. But we really push education in our company. So I think we have 16 of like the 28 people that are employed here right now are signed up for some form of an education class, paid class. And we have over 30 certificates total, free and paid, from all of our guys who have taken classes. And they can become a certified tech here if they take certain paid ones. And then the free ones, they get paid like $25, $50 for taking those free courses.
That's great.
Yeah, so we have a wall out in our shop that's it says certified badasses, and it's got all their certifications on it. So a lot of them are proud of that.
That's really cool. I like that idea. Back to your sales guy. Does he get paid a salary plus commission? Is he all commission? How do you guys work that?
Yeah, he's salary plus commission. So his commission, we've got him at 5%. And so what he does in service autopilot, you know, when he bids it out, say it's $31,000 or whatever. Well, he can, you know, put another line item under it for, what is it? And we have a commission service, so we can keep track of it, and he puts his 5% commission in there.
Yeah, obviously the customer won't see that. It's just on the inside side. But, and a lot of people that listen to this, you know, they're maybe just coming up, just starting out. So I like to provide a lot of information. That's the whole goal. Like we had help. So I'll ask certain questions like that just to help the people listening to, like, oh, I never thought about that.
And that's what I can say. One of the things when you're starting out, you should be paying yourself commission. Yeah. You're selling the job, put commission into the job and pay your commission just like you're a salesperson. Otherwise, you're going to hire a salesperson. You're like, I don't have the money to do that, or this is not happening. And if you set yourself up for success from the beginning and paying yourself like the job that you're doing, then it's easy to hire them.
And how many entrepreneurs, I'll say in the service industry as a whole, started out that way, like just not taking a paycheck? Didn't pay ourselves for how many years? And then also we need to go replace yourself. Like, wait, we have to pay someone? Like, we should have been paying ourselves the whole time, so we know what those numbers were. But it was a shot in the dark.
Yes.
So Jason's favorite hire was, the sales guy. Really key hire, not favorite, but key hire. Ashley, what was a key hire for you?
It was definitely the office person. Was that key? Because she took a ton off my plate. And after we left that meeting, one of the other things was every month I should be passing something on to her. So it was like, hey, you're answering phones. And then it's, hey, you need to be doing this. And so I was passing stuff off, even all the way to this past December. I was still doing payroll for the whole company because I was afraid to pass it off to her for some reason. And she's like, let me do payroll. Yeah. She's like, I can do it.
How many people do you have in your office now?
2. So we just hired a second office person to help her because she was starting to get maxed out. And I'm helping her recognize those things, just like people helped me. So she's like, I can do it all. I was like, can you? I was like, how are you budgeting your time? Where should you be spending your time? Can someone help you relieve this and help you go faster so that the business is going faster? So she's learned a lot too.
Yeah, that's cool. What have been your guys' biggest challenges in the past, let's just say, year? Let's keep it simple.
In hiring.
Yeah.
We're big on culture, so we don't hire anyone that comes in our office. Like most landscape companies, you call them, you're like, hey, I want to work for you. And they're like, come on in, be here Monday.
Yep.
Or they show up or not. That's a whole different scenario. But we go through a whole interview process for all of our hires, and we hire them based on culture. So if they don't fit our culture, they might have 30 years experience, and we do not care. Like Very if they smart. Can't fit in with our team, it's not going to work for us.
How many jobs can you go to, or job interviews that you can go to that's a very high level job? Let's say a CEO or a VP or something of sales or whatever that you just walk into, they don't ask any questions, say, hey, just come on in. How many? Mm-hmm. 0.
Yeah.
Right?
0.
Yeah.
But that's what our profession does for some reason. I don't know. They just take whatever we can get. Take whatever we can get. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But if you take them through that whole process, make them feel like it's a legit company, they're going to want to stick with you longer than just show up and, oh, your first day here? Sure, just come on the job.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with sales guys. Everyone just wants to hire some sales guy. Like, no, actually do a real interview, vet them, make them come in for a second and third interview. Make sure they're a really good hire.
And I will say for our second interview process, we never meet in office. I take them to lunch every single time because I want to see how they treat the waiters. I want to see how they interact naturally with other people around customers, how friendly they are, how respectful they are. Always take them to a restaurant.
Yeah, even when we not even just the tech side, but more of the management side, I make their wives come to the second interview.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll talk to I'll ask the wife questions. We'll ask the wife questions and see if she's bought in.
Oh, that's great. I like that a lot. That's the first time I've ever heard that.
Because if she's bought in, he's going to be bought in. Yeah. So if he has bad days, she'd be like, no, keep going. And she'll want him to excel. Some of my best hires to this day have all came from with people in interviews with their significant other.
Yeah, that's good knowledge. Yeah, I like that a lot.
I have a few things. We do a lot of
cultural events where we have families involved, and that helps a good bit too because they're family of the company.
Yeah.
So we do a cultural event every single month where we axe throwing or go-kart racing or something. They're going paintballing tomorrow.
Awesome.
And it doesn't always have to be something expensive. It can be going to breakfast together.
Yeah.
Or anything real simple. But we do that once a month with our team. And sometimes we do it just our team and it's team building only. And sometimes it's family, and the families love it. All the kids getting together, playing. It's great.
Yeah, so I had this question asked to me yesterday, so I'll take the question and I'll ask you guys in the podcast. With that culture thing, you're having all these events and it makes it fun. You're doing paintballing, you're hanging out as a family. When it comes to discipline and firing people that have been with you guys for, let's say, 2 or 3 years, been to all these events, been with their family, does it make it harder?
Oh, it definitely makes it harder. I mean, it's hard already because you don't want to, it's somebody's livelihood.
Yeah.
But usually I'm not really one that does firing. Ashley doesn't really fire either. The management team on each side, they do that, and we allow them to make the call. It's definitely never easy. And I think we've created a good culture here that the guys we don't really have much of an issue at all from the ones that have been here for a while. It's usually the ones that have been here 3 or 4 weeks, or something like that, that haven't quite gotten into the vision of what's going on yet. And they're getting their feet wet and all this kind of stuff that just, they're just missing too many days, or they're late all the time or something like that. And we don't let that fly. You can't. I mean, if you do, you got to let it fly for everybody, and it's just not happening. So
our guys are just as invested as us. So they want to see this company grow. They're like, we cannot wait. We want to see what the next thing y'all are bringing, to the table is. We want to see where we're going. So especially the ones that have been here a long time are very invested. And if they're not, I always tell our operations managers, do a PIP plan first.
Yep.
So that's your first step to get them back on board.
Yeah.
See what's going on in their life. See if something's off. Do that first. Get them back on plan. If that doesn't work, then we let them go.
Yep. And I've always said that too. Like, no one should ever be surprised that they're getting fired, ever.
Yeah.
No. You almost got to know it's coming for sure. It's not you're not going to walk in here one day and be broadsided by it.
Yeah, unless something really bad happened, but then they would know that they're getting fired anyway. And then the second part of that question was, you said that one of the hardest things is getting equipment, trucks, things like that. What's your...
Yeah, I mean, that's mainly like COVID related. I mean, it's supply chain issues. I mean, we were on a wait list for, we just got a Ditch Witch 3000. We were on the wait list for months for that thing. I'm still on a wait list for another 1550.
Yeah.
And I'm probably 30 something down in line. So, I mean, it's supply chain stuff. I mean, I can go buy a used one all day, but the used ones are as much as I can buy a new one for.
Yeah. The company that I sold, my maintenance company, during COVID, or before COVID hit, we ordered collection systems for the Graveleys. Still can't get them in. So it's been almost 3 years now, and they still don't have the new collection system. So they've been working with the gap. But what are some workarounds that are getting you guys around those challenges of equipment? Are you renting more stuff, or are you finding
renting if we have to rent? Well, probably one of the bigger challenges for us was, for a long time, was trucks, like the Isuzu NPRs.
Yeah.
You could not find those things, and if you could, like a 1998 was $3,000. They're when you used to be able to buy them for like $6,000. So that sometimes is a hard pill to swallow when you're like, well, if I need a truck, I got to pay this price for it, and you just got to bite the bullet and do it.
Yeah, for sure. I think we ordered 3 new Ford Mavericks in last September. We don't even have a build date yet, so it's like, plan B is we gotta go find some used trucks, I guess. We
gotta make it work. I think we pieced the truck together last year, so we bought a truck in one state, we bought the bed in another state, and then we had to have it put together when it got here and some repairs to it.
Yeah, but you just gotta do what you gotta do, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to get on marketplace and just start hunting down.
It's right. We're entrepreneurs. That's what we figure out, right? We solve challenges no matter what it takes. What is some of the best advice you would give someone just starting out in business, or maybe doing, maybe they're sub 1 million or 500,000, somewhere in there? Each of you will probably have a different answer, so I'd like to hear from each of you. What is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
I could almost bet we have the same answer. Let's see if we got the same answer. Okay. All right. Mine would be back-end systems, and automate as much as you possibly can with a good CRM software, whether it's Service Autopilot or any of these other ones. There's a bunch of free ones. I wouldn't do the free ones just because you're going to outgrow it faster than you think you're going to. But get a system in place that can do all the back-end stuff. That's the most important thing. Anybody can go out and cut grass.
Yeah.
Most companies or guys that I know of usually max out either themselves and a helper, or maybe themselves and a helper and like one other crew.
So they get maxed out between 250 and 500.
Yeah, they're hitting this bottleneck.
Yep.
Because they themselves cannot manage anything over that.
Yeah. And
if you have a system that can keep up with it, then you can blow past it. That was my bottleneck when I was starting out when she came on board.
Same
I was my own bottleneck.
Same here. Stuck at 250, you couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, I would say back end systems is my biggest thing that I would have somebody work on.
Yeah, I told someone that the other day we met with a smaller company than ours, because we really like to network with companies in our area and across the United States. But I met with them, And he said he couldn't afford a CRM software to help manage things. And I said, how much are you losing each month where work's getting done for free that you never invoiced because you forgot about it?
Yep.
I was like, I said it could pay for the CRM.
Even the extra 15, 20 minutes, half hour on a spring cleanup would, help pay for that. Anything like that they're not tracking, that they're just, oh yeah, we're probably there for 45 minutes or 30 minutes. We're actually there for an hour. Well, you do that 10 times a day. Adds up quick.
I told him that. And then the other thing that I think is super important, that before you ever hire your first employee, you should have an employee handbook in place, like created, and documents like legally to save yourself. We have non-competes, non-disclosures, different things like that. And everyone always says, well, non not worth anything. It is, if it's worded correctly.
Yeah.
Our systems say they can't go into the same industry. They can go build their own lawn care company all they want. They just can't, take our clients with them or our employees with them.
Yeah. And another smart one there is a non-solicit agreement, which will actually hold up in court. If they write a bad review, however how long it's been online, they can actually charge a fee, which is really cool. Again, go hire a lawyer. I'm not an attorney. These guys aren't attorneys. Go out there and find yourself a good lawyer. The next thing, that piece of advice that I add to what they said, is know your pricing from day one. Don't make things up. Find help.
Absolutely.
Find help. Figure out how much it costs you to do the job, and make sure you're always making a profit from day one.
That's something that we've learned as we grow that really held us back in the beginning was the rate matrices. So we're making up, this yard's going to be $250 a month. And I was like, how are you coming up with these numbers? Where do they come from? How do they work? So I started working his math backwards to try to come up with a rate matrix in the system to automatically price these yards. And once we had that, he had several, especially bigger properties that were off on pricing. Because again, you can only guess so much, and then you start getting off after that because you start second guessing yourself because you're like, wow, 350 sounds like a lot because my average yard's 250. So then you're like, I'll just tell them it's 275.
Yeah.
When no, it should be 350.
Yeah, we actually hired a full-time girl in the office just for auditing all of our accounts.
Yeah. And you should be looking at those, looking at times. We look at budgeted hours, how all the accounts are doing. Do we need to reevaluate? So we've gotten really, really good at that. And I say from the beginning, rate matrix, come up with a system. Every yard's done the exact same way. Whether
that's on a spreadsheet or CRM, just go out, mow a lawn, clock how long it takes you. I'm like, okay, well, this is average square foot yards, 10,000 square feet. It took us 12 minutes or whatever. Just track those times so okay, if I go do another one of these yards, they're exactly the same and how long it's going to take me, how much I can bid it for.
Yes.
Yeah. And once you've got it, dialed in like that, which is where it comes back to service autopilot again. So the two girls that we have in the office, all of our maintenance and fertilization we control, and some other services, mulch and things like that we can measure from a satellite. Any of that stuff, they all bid it from the office. They don't have to leave. So once your matrix is in the system, you measure off the square footage or bed square footage or whatever, and the system just gives you the price. We always have stuff in there, especially if it's a first time or will be a first time visit for a client that we've never done before. We're picking up. Yeah. We always have to have something in there. If we get there and the grass is, 2 feet tall, obviously it's going to cost more. But
sure.
Our first visit, it will always be hourly. It may take us the regular 30 minutes, or it might take me an hour and a half. Depends on how tall your grass is.
Yep, we're always the same way.
Yep.
I have we're running out of time, but I have one last question for you guys. And it's not a question that I've ever asked on here. How often do you guys recreate the business, and how often do you guys recreate yourself?
Recreate the business. You almost have to. I would say the time we do that would be the end of the year, like our yearly level 10 meetings that we have for planning for the next year. Is when you kind of take a look back at the last year. We always do it at the end of December, and then almost kind of recreate it. That's what we did at the end of last year, because we're doing stuff right now that we didn't think we were going to be doing this year, that we were like, well, let's do it.
Hell yeah.
This is something we've never tried before. Let's hire this, this outside person to do all of our social media stuff.
Cool.
So you always have to, kind of keep an eye on it. And at least once a year, you got to step back and and see where you reevaluate where your target is. It's a moving target. Targets move.
Always.
I think yours different than mine. I would say mine's like more daily.
That's what I would say too.
I dream about the business. Yeah. I think about the business. I'm like going through it and I walk in the office. I'm like, I had this crazy idea today. Hold on, guys. Let me tell you about it, what we can do. And they have to kind of rein me in and say, hey, we can't do that yet. Yeah. Or that's a great idea. We should totally push that out. I am always thinking about it.
Love that. And I have a good tip on that. So I'm the same way. Quick start, super high and quick start. The ideas galore. But what I started to do is write down all my ideas on a piece of paper, right? Because if I give all my ideas to my office, it drives them bonkers. Like they just look at me with like deer in the headlights. Like, are you kidding me? So what I started to do is I filter myself. And so I'd write all my ideas throughout the week. And at the end of the week or end of 2 weeks, I'd be like, okay, which one of these ideas is actually a really, really good idea? And then I move it from my notes to their notes or Trello board or whatever.
Yes.
So once it hits there, they've known that I've done a good job filtering out my ideas at this point, and like they know it's pretty important to me.
Yes. So I filter a lot. I have a notepad on my phone, and then I have the Alexa. So they laugh at me because I have an Alexa by my shower. So as I'm showering, I can even think of ideas and say, "Hey Alexa, take this note for me." Because they're like, "You don't ever turn off," and I was like,
"Ever." Same.
It's hard for me to turn it off. Like I'm just always thinking about.
She'll wake up in the middle of the night and go in the office and start working on something because she dreamed of automation that or something.
Yeah.
Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
Yep.
And sometimes it's the best thing ever.
Yeah, but it's that batting average that counts, right?
Yep.
And then, how often do you guys recreate yourself?
I'll let you go first on this one because I don't know. I think we recreate. I mean, you're constantly evolving and learning. I don't like to read, so I will listen to podcasts or listen to, I don't know. It's on a lot of it's on Facebook, because you're on Facebook too on this podcast, but listen to a lot of those things. So you are kind of always evolving and changing your perspective on certain things. It's always good to take somebody else's perspective, and look at it their way. And you're like, well, actually, they're probably a little more on target than I am on this subject, and you can change and adapt to it.
Yeah.
The biggest things I've made in the past year is, again, education. Going back, I've read more and listened to more podcasts in the past year than I ever have. I think I did 7 hours yesterday of podcasts. So I'll read a book in a day or two. I just dive 100% into it because I want to learn more, know more, grow faster. So that's probably the biggest thing that I've changed in the past year. It's just learning more.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I've said this a million times too. I was like a 1.8 GPA in high school because I didn't care. Yeah, I was smart, but I just didn't try. I was there for a school and girls, let's be honest. But then as soon as I found out something that I was passionate about, like I couldn't put the books down. Throughout grade school, middle school, and high school, I never took a book out of the library ever. Not one time, unless they like made us take a book home to read to our parents or whatever. But when I was older, never. But now it's a book a week constantly. Like, I can't get enough.
Yeah. I can't get enough. And I think I told you this the other day. In order to be called like CEO title for me, you got to earn it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to earn it through learning. So I got to know that I've earned the right to be called CEO and that I'm leading by example. So we actually pushed even a book out to our team. All of our management team, they're required to read a book every quarter. And then we push it down even. I know I can bump it up. We do once a quarter that they're required to read a book, and most of them read other books anyway. They're just required to read whatever the company's reading.
Yeah.
And then we push it down further to everyone below that. If they read it, we'll give $25 on their check.
That's
because
super
it
cool.
just shows initiative and growth.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Thanks for that share. What's the future look like for you guys?
Unstoppable. That's the easiest word that I can describe. High growth and then more vacations. I have to recharge. I burn myself out because I am always thinking. So I have a hard time stopping. Because of that, I have to take vacations. The only place that I feel I'm able to recharge is the mountains. So we want to get like a mountain house within the next probably 2 years. That's also where we want to retire.
Are you allowed to drive fast cars in the mountains?
That's the best place to drive them, man.
Yeah.
What's your favorite car, Jason? You've driven a lot of them.
My favorite car?
Yeah.
What, that I've had?
Or just in general? That you've driven, that you've liked to rent it or whatever?
I don't know. I mean, probably some of the faster ones, of course, the Lamborghinis and stuff. I don't know. I like the new, I mean, my favorite car that I've ever had, everybody would think it would be the Lambo, but it was actually the C7 Z06 I had. That was just an amazing car.
Cool.
That was an awesome car. And the new Z06 is really cool too, but dealerships are wanting a little over MSRP, and I think MSRP is like maybe 130. And there's one here at a dealership that's they're asking $250 for it.
And Ashley, you were driving a Range, right?
I was driving a Range. I just got in December. I got a Audi QR8, SQ8. And it's not my favorite. Not that it's a bad car. It's a great car. It's just not quite as badass as I would like. And I plan to go back to a Range.
Yeah, girl. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
I like the Range Rover.
Well, you guys are both badasses. Again, I appreciate your friendship. And thanks for taking the time to spend with me today. I know it's been over an hour already. It's been an hour and 10 minutes, and it just goes by fast. Like, you can't squeeze it in enough. Like, all of us could probably talk for the next 6 hours.
Oh, yeah, yes. Man. I feel like we just got started.
I know. But yeah, thanks for your time. And again, I appreciate you guys and appreciate your friendship.
Thank you.
Man, I appreciate having us on here.
Cool. Well, I'll check with you guys soon.
All right.
Bye.
Cool.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the Pest Control Millionaire Podcast. If this was valuable to you, please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. It really makes a big difference for our growth. And if you do need any help growing your business, go ahead and check out pestcontrolmillionaire.com. We have lots of courses up there, from sales to operations. I have some courses there about producing short form content. Plus, we have a mentorship program where you can get one-on-one business coaching from the Pest Control Millionaire himself. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.